Environmental question. Do you believe that global warming is a serious issue or used as an icon to further the political agenda of some personnel? Bert.
Well, I think that global climate change is a reality. I think the real question is there a human cause to it? And I would submit to you that in what we need to accomplish, it doesn't matter. What we need to accomplish is going to stop the clock.
Oh yeah, modern technology. Doesn't work. Hold that on.
Yeah. The issue really isn't whether there's a human cause to global climate change. We have every reason to get away from dirty coal, oil, and natural gas for the generation of electricity. We have every reason to get away from expensive foreign oil. What that means is developing an energy policy for this country that makes our buildings more energy efficient, relies on alternative renewable sources of energy like solar, wind, nuclear, biomass, and makes sure that we have an energy policy that will result in less emissions of carbon dioxide, because that does, using those types of fuels does cause environmental problems. Whether it causes global warming is still up to debate. But I think the issue is, how do we become energy independent? How do we become energy efficient? How do we get away from expensive foreign oil? And the way to do that is with a good, solid energy policy requiring more alternative fuels, again, like solar, wind, nuclear, and biomass.
Mr. Neal.
I guess I'm crazy. I believe that burning fossil fuels adds additional carbons to the air that injure the ozone layer and cause global warming. Yes, I believe that's true. But I believe that that's a function of our dependence and addiction on fossil fuels. That also transfers the wealth from the United States of America to those countries who may or may not have our best interests in their hearts. What I propose is for those of you who are old enough to remember, a 1940s style Manhattan Project where we develop a new energy previously not thought of, or for those of you who are a little younger, a 1960s style project to send a man to the moon and return him safely to the earth. If we will concentrate the best minds in this country on development of new energy technology and the increase in technology of old energy like wind, solar, bio, and maybe even tides, then we will serve ourselves by saving that transfer of wealth and improving our environmental impact. That's what we need to do in this country, and without a stable energy policy in Washington, it will never happen.
Yes, I think that there's no question that there is a broad scientific consensus that global warming and climate change is not only a fact that's happening, but that it is significantly contributed to by man-made activities. And I think that one of the problems that we have, and we've seen this particularly over the last 8 years with our current administration, is that we have a tendency now more than ever to politicize science. And science, for all its faults, it is a very specific process, and it has very specific results. It's certainly not infallible, and it is always open to interpretation, but it is a solid process. Now, I agree with both Mr. Neal and Senator Saunders that there's no question that we need to redouble our efforts in developing renewable energy sources, particularly wind, solar, geothermal, biofuels. I'm not opposed to seeing nuclear power developed either. It would be my last choice, but I think it is a viable option. I think it's just important for us to remember that these are, by and large, proven science or proven technologies. It's just a question of economics and scale. And we need to make sure that we have the political will among ourselves as citizens to make sure that now that gas prices are going down, or oil prices are going down, that the will in Washington remains to get this done.
Next question is something that's near and dear to all our hearts. It's regarding tax issues. Do you support a flat tax, national VAT tax, consumption tax, in regards to personal income and corporate income. You're up, Mr. Neal.
Since I prepare income tax for a living, I should have a good opinion about this. And I do. No, I do not support it, and here's why. Because not everybody pays. The flat tax is typically only on tangible goods. So if you buy, lumber, you pay tax. If you buy a car, you pay tax. But that's why I say not everybody pays. For folks who have enormous means, if they go and buy 1,000 shares of Google, they don't pay any tax on the 1,000 shares of Google. So all of a sudden, the brokerage houses are getting off scot-free. Under the flat tax plan I've heard, when you buy a home, you pay the flat tax. So you buy a $200,000 home, you pay $30,000 worth of flat tax. But next month, when you make your mortgage payment, you don't pay any tax. Everybody knows that mortgage payment is 98% interest, but there's no tax on the interest. So the banks are getting off scot-free. There's two big vultures in this economy. How about when you buy insurance on your home? Do you pay flat tax on that? No, it's not tangible. Now the insurance companies are getting off scot-free. I'm sorry, the flat tax is not fair. We cannot afford to do that in this country.
When we talk about taxation, we often tend to talk around, I think, what are some of the fundamentals. Now, if you ask me if I support a flat tax, the answer is no. Because I am firmly committed to making sure that we have a progressive system of taxation in this country. What that means is that the people who have the most economic power in this country, the wealthiest people, by virtue of having that power, they also have they have more responsibility. Now, one of the things that I've looked at and that I think is an interesting proposal is the fair tax. I don't know if how many of you are familiar with this or not, but essentially the fair tax is a proposal that's been out there for a while. It's sort of a flat tax with a progressive rebate. This is an interesting proposal. I'm not exactly 100% convinced that it'll work, but I think it is a solid proposal out there. The thing that we have to remember is we've got to get away from this mentality, this sort of casino capitalism style mentality, that all you have to do is pull a lever, invest in the right stocks, and you're going to be a big winner, and when you become a big winner, your responsibility to everybody else ends. That's not the way it works. This country was built on a solid work ethic that honors the idea of work over investment. And I think that we need to get back to that, and we need to make sure that the people who are making their money off of investment and who are paying for $400,000 spa trips after their company is bailed out by the government, we need to make sure that these people are paying their fair share. Thank you.
We spend about $100 billion a year in this country in tax preparation. I don't want to take away from Robert's business there, but there's something wrong with that. I think probably the three letters that scare most of us the most, they aren't KGB, they're IRS. And so we need to find a way to make this whole system a lot simpler. We need to find a way to make sure that the fat cats don't have so many different exemptions and write-offs that they don't pay any taxes at all. So I do support a streamlining of our tax code, a complete change of our tax code. If that means a fair tax or the flat tax or the value-added tax, then fine. Those are tax plans that we need to take a look at. We need to make sure that everybody's paying their fair share, but that we have a system that doesn't let certain people get off scot-free, and unfortunately that's what we have right here. I do want to take one exception with something that Jeff George said in terms of the casino type of style economy we have. I think we're all capitalists, we're all free market people. We all understand that there has to be some regulation of that, and if there isn't regulation, you wind up with what we have in the banking industry today. But we have a country where entrepreneurs and smart people and business people who work hard can make a lot of money, and we want to maintain that because that's what's made this country great. And so we can do that. We can amend our tax codes. We can fix our tax codes and make them fair. But we don't have to eliminate this this free market mentality that we have in this country, because that's what's made this country so great.
Social Security. Do you support fixing the Social Security system by removing the taxable income limit? That ought to be a quick answer.
No, I don't think we necessarily need to remove the limit, but I think that if we raise the cap from where it's at now, I believe it's about $102,000 per year, we can raise that significantly and keep a curve up, and I think that'll go a long way towards preventing the projected shortfall, which currently is supposed to happen sometime around 2041. So I think that is probably the most viable option. Again, I don't know about eliminating it entirely, but raising the cap is not a bad idea.
The Social Security program is not in immediate trouble. There have been raids on the trust fund, and once those funds are paid back to the Social Security Trust Fund, it's pretty well funded for at least the foreseeable future. We have other problems such as Medicare and Medicaid, and then all the other issues that we've talked about that really require Congress's immediate attention. So we have some time to deal with Social Security. I don't believe in raising taxes, especially at a time when we have an economy like this. And so I think that would be an inappropriate thing for us to do. Now, when we do get into the Social Security fix, which will have to happen in the not too distant future, the issue becomes, do we privatize it? Do we let people take their own funds and invest it in the market and theoretically make more money? Well, I think I've always been opposed to that. I've invested in the stock market, and whenever I'm investing my own money in the stock market, I tend to come out on the short end of the stick. And most people are going to wind up doing that. And this volatile market has shown us that if you put your life savings into the market and you're doing it yourself and you don't have professionals running it for you, you've got some real risk out there. So I would be opposed to having individuals take their money out of Social Security for their own investments. I think it has to be run by large companies that can certainly flatten out the risk. So I would be opposed to the privatization of Social Security.
The Social Security wage base has increased steadily over the past long as I can remember. When I first started preparing taxes in 1973, it was at like $16,000, and it's around $100,000 now. I promised myself I would never commit those numbers to memory because there's too many of them and I just can't remember them all. But it's around $100,000 now. And I support it continuing to increase as time passes in order to keep Social Security funded. However, I do support a sweeping reform of Social Security. We really need to take our children out of the Social Security program as it exists today and put them into a new Social Security program whereby the taxes that they pay and the taxes that are matched by their employers is set aside into a real trust fund that's put away for their retirement. And what I propose to do is divide that trust fund out by congressional district in these United States of America and make it available to municipalities for infrastructure needs. Here in Cape Coral, we struggle with Southwest 5, Southwest 6, Southwest 7, Southwest 42. We're trying to build water and sewer for our benefit and for the benefit of our environment. If there were Social Security funds invested by young people into a real program that's set aside for their retirement, we could borrow from those Social Security funds for this infrastructure on a general obligation bond and pay it back at interest, and those funds would increase and would be there in perpetuity for our children and their children for as long as things exist. That's the sweeping reform that I think would benefit us, not in the 2-year term of a congressman, but in the long run. We have to repair Social Security so that it's always secure for our folks.
The next question concerns Homeland Security, and it'll be started by Mr. Saunders. Do you see a nuclear-armed Iran as a threat that must be mitigated if diplomacy and sanctions do not correct the problem?
Absolutely. A nuclear Iran would be a major problem for the entire world. I'm one of those who believes that we have to rely on our good friends in Israel to keep us informed on what's happening, because they're on the ground there and they have the ability to get the intelligence that is necessary for their very survival. And I believe that at some point in time, as Iran continues to develop its nuclear program, the Israelis are going to make a decision to take that nuclear facility out. They're going to do that because they're going to have to do it for their very own survival. They know that if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, it won't be long before it reaches Jerusalem or someplace in Israel. And so we need to support our friends in the Middle East that are working with us to keep Iran from getting a nuclear device. What we need to do right away, right now, is really tighten the sanctions on Iran. Make it painful for them, make it painful for their government to continue to develop a nuclear weapon. Because as they get closer, and we're talking 18 months maybe at the most, as they get closer to this, you're going to start seeing the potential for an attack by Israel, which will destabilize the entire Middle East, but they're going to have to do it. And so whatever sanctions we can impose, we need to do that right away. Thank you.
Ditto. I think Senator Saunders hit that pretty well on the head. I would like to see us focus on the real war on terror. I believe that the terrorists are in the mountains of Afghanistan and Pakistan, and I believe they are a larger danger today than Iran's current status as in nuclear weapon production today. Now that may change, but on October 11, 2008, that's what I believe. I think we need to support the governments of Afghanistan and Pakistan in their efforts to weed out the terrorists and terminate them. And if they don't decide they want to do it themselves, maybe we should lease those wastelands called the mountains of Afghanistan and Pakistan. Just lease them for our own personal use. Didn't we lease an island down in the Bahamas for a bombing range down there one day? And if we lease it, maybe we could, do a bombing range in that area. And on our leased lands, that could help maybe. But that's the kind of ideas I have about the nuclear Iran. Thank you.
Good grief. Another National Training Center. This is an oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had answered that.
No, I haven't.
I beg your pardon.
No problem. Yes, a nuclear armed Iran is a problem. Now, is it as great a problem as is being stated? I have questions about that. I would look to General John Abbassid, who said very frankly and very bluntly that the United States can abide a nuclear armed Iran. Now, what he meant by that, and what I take from that, is not that we want to see Iran develop nuclear weapons. Certainly we don't. That will destabilize the whole region. It is a threat to the political status of Israel, but I don't believe that Iran is a suicide nation like so many people tend to paint it out to be. World leaders, no matter how despotic they tend to be, particularly the despots and the tyrants, tend to be guided by a principle of self-preservation. And anybody in the government of Iran is smart enough to know that if they use nuclear weapons against Israel, that's the end of Iran as well. And I don't think they want to see that happen. Now, what we need to do in the interim is I agree that sanctions are the right course of action right now, but I think we also need to negotiate with Iran. We need to understand that with the Iranian people, there is a strong impulse to maintain this nuclear program, not because they want nuclear weapons, but because they want nuclear energy, because they're facing the same energy problems that we're facing. And as a signature of the Non-Proliferation Agreement, they have a right to nuclear energy. And I think what we have to do is we have to look at a solution that is going to allow them to have nuclear energy with a very closely monitored program of enrichment to make sure that that isn't diverted into to nuclear weapons. But I think this is a good example of a situation where a threat is being exaggerated to keep us all fearful and to keep this country on a war footing that it doesn't need to be on. Thank you.
Next one is concerning health care. Do you support CMS, i.e. the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, proposal for integration of medical payments? And I believe, Mr. Neal, you're first.
Senator Saunders wrote a guest opinion in the news press about 2 months ago about the cost of having different providers for health care. And the administrative costs alone were 15 or 18%, he described. And I think he had that pretty well researched, and I think his numbers were good. Yes, if we have a single payer system, I think we're going to save a lot of money in health care. Here's what I propose. I propose an expansion of the Medicare system. Medicare is in place and it works. And if you don't know and don't believe it works, ask a senior who in this room is willing to give up their Medicare benefits. It works fine. So let's expand it. Every time a president raises his hand to be inaugurated, let's change the age. Drop it from 60 to 65, I'm sorry, 65 to 60, and increase it from 0 to age 5. And every 4 years, we're going to change it by 5 years on the top and 5 years on the bottom. What that will do is over a period of time, we will close the gap. Everyone will be covered by Medicare. Then, you know, parents have to pay that Medicare premium, just like you do, about $100 a month on your Medicare B. They have to pay that for their children. But now they have well baby care. And everybody knows with well babies, they're better ready to be educated. Right, Mr. School Board Member? They'll be better educated if they're healthy, and that'll save us in the education costs. Also, a 60-year-old who starts going to the doctor will be healthier when they're 65, and that'll save us on their health care costs at age 65.
You know, like everybody in this room, I'm a capitalist, and I certainly believe in free market solutions when they're appropriate. And I think, unfortunately, this is a lesson that we need to learn, that we want our doctors and our medical facilities to make a good, healthy living. We want them to be well paid. The problem that we have right now is we have an unnecessary middleman in the mix that's dragging down the cost for everybody and making health care less available to everybody as well. That middleman is the insurance companies and the HMOs, and certainly the drug companies play a large part in driving up costs, as do, we could also look at the cost of legal fees for malpractice insurance. The bottom line is we need a single payer universal health care system in this country. We need to stop messing around with half solutions, trying to appease the insurance companies. The majority of physicians and medical professionals in this country say, yes, we need a single payer plan. We need, and I believe that the foundation of that could be from the expansion of Medicare as well. However, this isn't something that we can phase in gradually. This is something that we, as the people, need to make our voice clear. The majority of people in this country want a single payer plan. It's the only way that not only are we going to get costs down, but we're going to guarantee that everybody is covered. We're going to guarantee that people who are working in this country don't have to fear losing their job, and if they have a pre-existing condition and never getting coverage again. We need universal health care. And I will be a strong advocate for that as anybody in Congress right now. Because the only way that it's going to happen is that if we let our representatives in Washington know to stop listening to the insurance lobbies and the drug company lobbies and fulfill the will of people on this.
Healthcare in this country is a $2.3 trillion industry, and it's going up at the rate of about 7–8% per year. The overhead in our industry in this country is about 31%. That's not the cost of a hospital or the cost of a surgery. That's just the billing of the healthcare. That's just the insurance company profit. That's embedded overhead. Now, in this country, just 30 years ago, that overhead was 17%. Somehow or another, it went from 17% to 31%. Now, what do those 14 points mean? Well, $2.3 trillion, that's almost $300 billion that arguably is being wasted if we just simply went back to how we did this 30 years ago in terms of billing. The point is, it's become overly complex. And so if we can simplify the way we bill for health care, that doesn't necessarily mean a single payer system. It certainly doesn't necessarily mean socialized medicine or anything of that nature. It just means making it simpler. We could save hundreds of billions of dollars. The issue of defensive medicine, doctors perform tests, hospitals order tests. It's estimated that could be as much as 15 to 20% of your medical bill is just wasted. Again, $2.3 trillion, let's assume 10% is wasted, that's another $230 billion. So there's over $500 billion that's easy to identify that's being wasted in our healthcare system. The problem is that the insurance lobby and the trial bar lobby has a stranglehold on Congress. They control the key members of the Senate, the key members of the House that control the issues dealing with insurance and with medical malpractice. If we can find a way to break that stranglehold, then we can save the taxpayers and all of us a tremendous amount of money. If we had that money, some portion of it, we could use that to provide insurance to the uninsured, we could use that to provide drugs for everybody. It is such a huge amount of money, and it's a shame that Congress simply does not go after that. If I'm elected, that's one of the issues that I want to work on. I can guarantee you that we can improve the quality and the affordability of health care. We can make sure that all Americans have access to quality care, and we can do that without raising taxes. We can do that without increasing the cost of care. We just simply have to make it much more efficient. Those numbers are out there, and Robert, I appreciate you referring to the article that I wrote. My information is based on information that was provided in the New England Journal of Medicine. There are reports that are out there that anyone can get them. I'll be happy to send you a copy of the journal article or a copy of my article. There are ways to fix this healthcare system. Congress just has to have the will and the ability to take on the insurance lobby and the trial bar lobby. And Jeff George is absolutely correct. That's where the solutions are.